So in the last video, one of the comments said you should do a manual driving tutorial in the Cobra. And I thought about it, and there are a lot of manual driving tutorial videos on the internet, but there's not a manual driving tutorial of a Terminator Cobra with an aftermarket clutch and a stage 3 cam and a Whipple. So I thought this would be an interesting video. It's going to be a how-to sort of, but it's going to be quirky because it's me. So the first thing that I'm going to go into is how to start a manual car. And if you've never driven a manual car, just make sure when you go to start it, if it's in gear or out of gear. I leave the Cobra in gear. Right now it's in 5th. You put it in really any gear. You can put it 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Then you let the clutch out, and then you're not gonna slide. I have a story to tell you guys. So when I was younger, we had a Jeep. My dad had a Jeep, and I was learning how to drive a manual. Someone left it in gear, and I wasn't thinking. And so I jump in it, start it, and you have to turn the key to start it, and then push your left foot down on the clutch, and then you turn the key and start it on a manual car. I didn't realize that it was in gear, so I let off, and the car starts, and it's in gear in 1st gear, and it shoots forward into the car in front of the Jeep and damages it pretty bad. So always make sure when you jump into a manual car, Cobra or not, that if it's in gear, that you take it out of gear and then leave your foot on the brake so that you don't start sliding back, because you will start sliding back. I'm super anal, so I always put my car in gear and then also put the e-brake up. I've got a habit out of that, even I do that on automatic cars now. But yeah, just don't start your car with it in gear and then shoot forward into the car in front of you. Or just, if there's not a car, you're just gonna stall. So always check if your car's in gear. Should be in gear when it's turned off, but if you don't think about that, you might hit the car in front of you. So like how you start the car: take it out of gear, leave, or this is at least what I do. Leave your foot, leave your right foot on the brake, and your left foot's going to be on the clutch, and then you're just going to start it. And you gotta like wiggle the gear shifter knob thing. Just, if you ever see guys doing this, like hitting it or wiggling it, it's not because we're crazy or we're silly. It's just when you learn how to drive a manual, you always do that a lot to make sure that it's actually in neutral, and it's just something that you get used to and you do a lot. Not everyone does that. It's a thing that a lot of people get annoyed by when they see people do it on video, but yeah, we're in neutral right now, so I'm letting my foot off the clutch. So no problem whatsoever. Foot off the clutch. Gonna let the car warm up. So getting into 1st gear is the hardest part for anybody learning a manual. It was the hardest part for me. I learned a manual on my dad's C6 Corvette, and we kept putting it into 3rd, and he wasn't telling me, and I kept stalling out, and he kept roasting me, and then we realized I was going into 3rd. So always make sure when you're learning to drive a manual that you are going into 1st. If someone's teaching you, make sure that you're putting it into 1st. If you're continuously stalling out, you might actually be in 3rd. Some of these gear ratios are tight. On the Terminator Cobra, it's fairly tight. I've got an aftermarket shifter. This is an MGW short shifter, so 1st gear is here. And it's not wanting to go in 1st right here. 1st gear is there. 2nd is down there. 3rd is up there. It's really close. 1st, 3rd. So it's really easy to actually accidentally be in 3rd. 3rd, 1st. So now that I explained that, I'm going to show you guys how to get into 1st gear. I'm not the greatest at explaining things, but I'm going to try my best here. So going into 1st gear, first thing that you need to do, make sure your right foot is on the brake. Especially, I'm on a hill right now. Make sure your right foot is on the brake. Your left foot is going to go all the way down to the floor with the clutch. This is Cobra specific. It's going to be different with every car, but this is Cobra specific that I'm teaching here. You're going to put it into 1st gear. And then with this car specifically, you're going to slowly start letting off the clutch. I'm on a hill, so you're going to slowly start letting off the clutch. And then at a certain point, you're going to start to feel a grab. So we're grabbing. I'm going to give it a little bit of gas up until about 1300 RPM. And I'm letting out the clutch. Clutch is grabbing, a little bit of throttle, then I just let out. So you're going to get to a point on every car where it starts to grab. And that's when you give it a little bit of throttle. With the Cobra specifically, I tend to try to putter the throttle. So when I'm getting into 1st gear, instead of just kind of like trying to do the whole like letting up with the clutch on this foot as I go in the throttle with this foot. That's kind of what you do with most cars. You're kind of like letting off with this foot, putting on throttle with your right foot. So clutch foot, left foot, and then your right foot on the throttle. You're kind of starting to ease into the throttle while you're letting off. With the Cobra, when I start to feel let off, I'm puttering the throttle because it's just a rowdy car with a big cam. So I'm gonna run through this with you guys one more time, how to put the car in first gear. So my right foot is on the brake. I'm on a hill a little bit. Probably when you do this, guys, don't be on a hill when you're first starting because it'll make you have a heart attack. Especially if they don't do it on the road. Go to an empty parking lot somewhere. Don't be on a hill because when you're learning this, everything gives you a heart attack. Your legs start shaking and you just screw things up that are really easy, or that should be easy, but you get nervous and your legs start shaking. So pushing the clutch all the way down with my left leg, my right leg's currently on the brake, putting it all the way over into first gear. It's first. If you want, you can just verify a couple times that it's in the right gear, not first. You know, first and not third, that's third. Going into first. So I'm gonna slightly start letting out on the clutch, and then I'm going to start giving it gas just a little bit. Letting out, letting out, letting out, letting out, letting out, letting out. All right, giving it gas. There we go. So we just went into first gear. I'm gonna do that one more time, pulling out on the road. So in first gear still, slightly letting out on the clutch. There's a car coming. This is tough. So I'm gonna do that one more time, pulling out on the road. Got my left foot on the clutch, right foot on the brake, slowly letting out on the clutch right now. We're getting to the point where I should give it some gas, letting out, it's grabbing, and I'm giving it some gas. About 1200 RPMs right there. So the next thing that I want to do is teach you guys what gear you should be in when you're cruising around, and that's going to depend on how fast you're going. So right now, driving through the parking lot, obviously I'm going like 5-10 miles per hour. So if you're going 5-10 miles per hour, which by the way sucks in a cammed manual car, if you're going 5 miles per hour, you're going to be in first. So I'm in first gear right now, going 10 miles per hour. About the time that you want to shift out of first is going to be around 20 to 25. That's just depending on, like, you know, when you want to shift. I like to shift around 20 myself. Now we're in second gear. If you're going around 25, 30, you can cruise around second gear. So 30 miles per hour here, second gear. I like to shift in a third about 32 to 35. So I'm just shifting to third. Third gear, you could be cruising anywhere between 35, 40. Once I get to about 40, I like to go ahead and shift into fourth. So fourth gear, I could just cruise in fourth gear at 40 miles per hour. Or if I want to be like lower RPM and just lug it around, I can go up to 45 or even up to 50, and then we're in fifth gear. Now we're cruising. This is sort of an overdrive gear, fifth gear. I'm not using sixth gear unless I go to about 60, and we're not on a highway, so I'm not going to go 60 here. But once you're going 60 and above is when you'd go into sixth gear. This minivan's totally gonna get on my ass. So just to explain that one more time, if you're lugging around in a parking lot, you're gonna be in first. If you're kind of driving slowly down in a downtown area, you're probably gonna be in second. If you're in like a downtown to uptown sort of area, and you're going like 30 something, the speed limit's 30, 35, you're gonna be in third. Once you get up to about 40, 45, you're gonna be in fourth. 45, 50, you can shift into fifth. And then once you're on the interstate going like 60 to 70, sixth. And that's specifically for the Terminator Cobra. I've got 355 rear gears. These are the stock rear gears. So those are the gears you'd use driving around in different scenarios. So now what I want to show you guys is downshifting. It's a little loud in here, so I'm gonna have to talk a little louder. So we're going 45 right now in third gear. We're at about 2650 RPMs. So remember that, 45 miles per hour, 2650. we're gonna go up to fourth. So now if you wanna go back down to third, you're gonna need to push the clutch in, and then you're gonna blip the throttle to where you just were at 45, which is 2650. So I'm gonna push in the clutch, blip the throttle, and then I'm gonna shift it back into third and then let the clutch back out. So that was basically a perfect downshift. I would show you what second is, but it would just be like really loud. So I'm not gonna show you, I'm just gonna tell you. In second gear, I'd be around like 35 to 3700 RPM. So if I wanna go down to second gear going 45, 50, I need to push in the clutch, blip the throttle to about 35 to 37, and then I'll shift down into second. So I'll show you guys that real quick. So pushing in the clutch, going into second, blipping the throttle. I actually missed it by a little bit there. I actually went to about like a little over 3,000. That's not terrible. You don't want to drop it down a gear and then not blip the throttle. You can actually tear up your transmission like that. But in a perfect world, I would have wanted to blip the throttle and have it go right around 35 to 37. So we're gonna try that one more time. If you don't get it perfect, it's okay. It's hard to get it perfect every single time. So in second gear now, we're gonna blip the throttle to about 35, 36, 37. So this minivan behind me hates me now, but that was pretty good. So we went to about 4,000, so I was only off by 2,000 RPM. But the point is, if you want to know where to downshift to, you need to go into that gear. So if you want to know what to downshift to second gear to, let's say you're going 45 and you want to drop it to second and do a pull or something like that, then you first need to be in 45, see what RPM that you're at in second gear at 45. Then when you're in third, fourth, fifth, and you want to shift back down to 45, you'd remember that RPM and you'd blip it to that exact RPM, push in the clutch, put it in second, and shift back down to that RPM. It's the same with any gear. If you're in fifth and you want to shift to third, going 50 miles per hour, then you need to know what RPM the car is going to be at 30 miles per hour. You need to know what RPM in third gear the car is going to be at that mile per hour, and then you need to blip it to that. Then you push in the clutch, put in the gear, and then you're going to be fine. You don't want to ever be in fifth and then shift down into second and not give it any gas or any blip, because what's going to happen if you're in fifth going like 45 and you just put it in a second you put it in a second, you're gonna get sucked back and it's gonna jerk the crap out of you, and it's really bad for the transmission. So when you're downshifting, always know what the correct RPM is. When you're downshifting into a certain gear, always blip it to that RPM. So right now we are going 40 in fourth gear. We're gonna do one more second gear downshift. This should get us right about a little over 3,000. So we're gonna blip it to right about over 3,000. So that was actually perfect. So as you heard, when I downshifted to second, it pretty much was already there. So you're meeting the RPMs with where the gear wants to be, so that you're not getting jerked, you're not jerking your transmission. And that's it. That's all there is to downshifting. This is an old car, so it doesn't rev match for you. It is cool when newer cars rev match for you, but it's a lot of fun and it's very satisfying being able to rev match your old car. So we're in third. We're going to go to second real quick one more time. So that was a little bit more quickly, but once you've done it for a while, you'll get the hang of it. So for the end of the video, I thought it'd be great if I could get my girlfriend to just get into... She's never driven a manual, or not. Have you driven a manual? Like once?
Yes, I've been... PTSD from my dad.
Okay. So, I mean, when I was younger and my dad taught me how to drive a manual, I pretty much got scolded, sort of, and didn't want to learn for a while, because I kept putting it in third gear, and then finally, like, I was just shaking so bad that I didn't ever really want to drive it again until like 3 or 4 years later. I drove a 3-valve Mustang GT, and it was a little bit easier. But it's not that bad. I think it's just the way that you teach someone. It can be
bad when you have a not great teacher.
Don't be like that.
It is.
Well, I feel like I'm a pretty decent teacher. I'm very patient.
I feel like I'm gonna get yelled at.
I'm not gonna yell.
I feel like
I
my
will
dad
not.
in the back of my head yelling at me.
I will not yell.
I don't want to do it.
Are you ready?
No.
It's in first,
Well,
but
the problem is that when I get so nervous, is like I will forget things. Like, because what I was telling you before is that I need to, like an idiot, you need to like talk me through.
well,
the
we're
whole
gonna
thing.
we're
no matter
gonna
how simple it is.
we're gonna go through it.
Because of how nervous I get, I just
We're gonna go. I mean, I was nervous too. We're gonna go through all of it again. So it's in first right now, so it's not gonna go anywhere. I'm gonna go ahead and take the e-brake off. Now, if you hit the clutch, we would go forward. The only thing holding us right now is first gear. We're on a very slight incline, I guess.
Yeah.
So this should be very easy going this way. You won't have to give it much gas. Are you ready to start it?
No.
Do you want me to walk you through how to get into first before we start it?
Okay.
And then I'll walk you through it again.
Yeah.
You don't have to start right now, but to start it, you're going to have your right foot on the brake. That's going to stop you from moving forward because, you know, once we get out of gear, we're going to not have anything holding us back.
Something that my dad let me do is that he would let me feel it before I started it.
The clutch?
No, like how to shift it.
You can if you want. I mean, we're only going into first, but if you want to
Why
feel
not?
it, and then put your foot on the brake.
What?
Put your right foot on the brake. All right, now push the clutch all the way in. Now you can, if you want to pull it out of gear.
How far does this go?
It goes all the way down.
But like, do I have to push it?
What do you mean?
Like, does it have to go like all the way back? Like, do I have to touch the floor with it?
I mean, just push it all the way to the end. I mean, you don't have to bang it to the floor or anything. So now we're moving forward.
Oh, okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I get it.
So because you pushed the clutch down, it wasn't engaged. And so
Okay.
that's like when it's in first and the clutch is engaged, we're not going to move forward. So another thing is like never rest your left foot on the clutch
Yeah.
because that will burn the clutch.
I remember
So when you touch the clutch at all, just even your foot resting on it at all, you're burning the clutch. So that's a bad habit that I used to have is I would like accidentally rest it. Sometimes when I'm driving, I burn up clutches that way. But basically, you know, to start it, you're just gonna have your right foot on the brake, your left foot all the way down on the clutch, and then would you put it back? You put it back in first. So you know, then you would just start it, take it out of first, put it in the middle in neutral. You do that in a second. Once you're trying to engage first, you're gonna have to take your. Well, you don't have to do that, but all right. Let me explain this better. So once it's started and you're in neutral, keep your right foot on the brake so that you don't start rolling forward. And then you're going to put your left foot all the way down on the clutch. And you're going to put it into first. And then you're going to take your foot off the brake and slowly let out the clutch. When it starts to grab a little bit at the end, you're going to putter the gas a little bit to like, just a little bit. Don't hit it hard because if you rev up to 2 or 3 grand, it's just going to jerk a lot. And definitely, like, if you accidentally do rev it up too high, like, just make sure that you don't, you know, do a rolling burnout or anything. It's pretty easy not to do.
Okay.
It's pretty easy not to do. It's, you know. Do you want to feel the gas a little bit? Just see how, just touch it with your foot and see how it is. It's probably stiffer than a newer car. So you're barely touching that when you give it gas. So you're just gonna see what I'm doing with my foot, just a little bit like that. So if this hand is your clutch foot and this is your gas, you're letting your clutch out, and then this clutch lets out of close to the very end. So at the end, when you start feeling it grabbing, is when you're going to give it a little bit of gas, and then you're going to start to feel it engage, and then you lift your foot off the clutch. Then you're in first. If you want to drive around the parking lot at that point, you can, or if you want to just move forward 4 or 5 feet and then put your foot back on the clutch, take it out and put it in neutral, and then whatever you want to do. Foot on the brake, push the clutch all the way down, and don't let your foot off the clutch until you put it in neutral. It's okay. Alright, you gotta push the clutch all the way down.
It is.
Alright. Leave the clutch compressed, put it into neutral, in the middle. You can shake it a little bit. All right, you're in neutral.
That's horrible.
You're in neutral.
This is horrible. I can barely shake that. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's tight. It's tight. You can feel it move. It moves a little bit though.
A little bit, but.
All right, you off the clutch?
No.
Let off.
Get off the clutch?
Off the clutch.
I'm scared.
It's fine. You're in neutral. It's not gonna do anything.
Okay.
All right. So now you're in neutral, sitting. So this is gonna be this is the most difficult part.
I'm gonna throw up.
Don't. It's okay. Like once you learn this, then everything else in the future with any other car will be easy. All right, you ready? It's not that bad.
I know it's not that bad. I understand like the concept when I'm not nervous. It's just I can't get my nerves out of the way.
It's okay. You're safe. We're in a little church parking lot. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Foot still on the brake. Push the clutch all the way down. All right. Put it over in the first. All right. So you're gonna slowly start to let it out. Let your foot off the brake.
I can let my foot off the brake?
Yeah. You're gonna roll forward a little bit.
Like how? I'm not gonna jerk forward, am I?
Just let your foot off the brake, but not off the clutch.
Okay.
All right. Slowly start letting the clutch out. Get your right foot ready on the gas. Don't press it yet. You're gonna start feeling it grab. Feel it grabbing yet?
I think so.
All right, give it a little tiny bit of gas. Let off the clutch. Let off the clutch. You did it. All right, just spin around. This jerking is not your fault. It's just because it's cam.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right. Put your left foot back on the clutch. Let off the gas. All right, put it back in neutral. All right, you're good. In neutral. Look at that. You did it. You didn't stall.
That's crazy because I stalled like 5 million times with my dad.
This wasn't that bad, was it?
No.
See? I'm not a terrible teacher.
You're not, but I was scared of like doing something wrong to the car.
You didn't. All right. No one behind us. Let's do it. You want to just try it one more time, or you want to try it 2 more times?
Try it again. I don't know how many times, but I'll try.
All right. You did good. You did good. That's fine. This car is difficult. If you did it like that in this car and any other car, it'd be better.
I'm surprised the jerking wasn't that bad.
Are you still on the clutch?
Yes.
You're in neutral. You can let off. See that pedal over there to the left?
This?
It's called the dead pedal.
Yeah.
That's where you put your foot
on it.
there when you're not on the clutch. Okay.
Do it again.
Yep. You're gonna roll back a little bit because you're on the
leaning
incline the other way. So foot all the way down. Put it in the first, all the way over. You want to check it to make sure it's first.
I think it's first.
Just check
How
it.
do you know?
So this is clutch already. This clutch is
Yeah.
down. All right. So that's good. Good. All right. Slowly start letting off. All right. You're gonna feel it to grab. All right. Give it gas a little bit. It's too much. A little bit less. A little bit less. All right. Let out. All right. That's okay. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. You got nervous. It's okay. Put it back in neutral. Put the clutch down. Put it back in neutral. Put your foot on the brake. And start it. If it doesn't want to start, it's not your fault. It just does that sometimes. Start it up good. All right. That's fine. That's fine. You didn't give it. We're on an incline now, so you had to give it a little more gas. It's easier going the other way. So when you start, when you felt it coming out a little bit, you just got to give it a little bit of gas. All right. Keep your foot on the brake, your right foot. Push the clutch in.
Yes.
Back into first. All right. So you'll start letting out a little bit on the clutch. And then when you start feeling a grab, give it some gas. A little bit less.
Somebody there. Okay,
You're fine. You're fine.
No, I'm like trying.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I don't. If I roll back into somebody.
There's no one behind you. tell you if someone pulls up behind you. Alright, so slowly let it out. Gas, a little bit. It's too much. A little bit less. A little bit less. Nope.
This is hard.
Yeah, alright.
Backwards.
Let it out. Gas. Oh, let it out too fast. There's a transition period right there, and you're getting nervous. It's okay.
This is where my dad would be yelling at me.
I'm not gonna yell at you. Just put it back in neutral. You're getting nervous. It happens to everybody. Your leg is shaking and you're letting out right there.
It hates me already.
It's fine.
It hates me. It's like fuck you, get out of the
It's fine.
driver's. It hates me.
We'll get it this time. I think you're gonna get it this time. You ready?
The car's already fed up with me.
It's all right. It's fine.
The car doesn't
It's
want
okay.
to start anymore.
You gonna put it in first? All right. At that point that you were stalling at, slow your foot down. Give it a little bit of gas, and you'll be fine. That was the engagement point. You let out too fast.
What?
You let out a little too fast the last time on the engagement point. All right. Gas. All right. Keep giving it gas. Gas. All right. Go. Did it. That was good.
Oh, I almost stalled.
This is just because it's cammed. This is hard to learn, but you did good.
Okay. Oh my god. Okay. I want to not be on an incline, so I'm going to try and stop. I'm going to stall at some point.
Remember how to get it out.
Okay. Okay.
Pushing the clutch.
Okay.
Leave it down. Put it in neutral. Good job.
Took 3 times, but
I stalled just as many times when I learned. No one knows. See, it's not so bad. All right, you ready to try one more time? All right, clutch in. Slowly let it out. Gas, a little bit. Gas. All right, good. You see what I'm saying now? The point where you were giving it gas, you were dropping the clutch and you were waiting too long to give it gas.
Jesus Christ, the jerking in this car is like...
It's just what it's like having a cammed muscle car.
Crazy. Alright, that's enough. Alright, okay. I think that's enough.
Alright. So turn it off. You just put your foot on the clutch.
It is.
Put it in first. And turn the key off. And let your foot off.
Let go?
Yeah.
You let go?
Yeah.
You know what I did one time with my dad? Can I let everything off?
Yeah.
You want to put...
You can.
One time, because the driveway is like a small incline, so like he likes to put it in first. So when I parked up and he told me, okay, put it in first, and I let the clutch, and without turning off the car, and it just went. So that was something like I got scared.
It happens. I think everyone, when they learn, when you start letting it out, your leg shakes a little bit, and you let it out a little bit too fast because you're nervous. You did great.
It's great.
See, it wasn't that bad, was it?
It was okay. It was a better experience than the first
And this is
time.
probably a much scarier car than the car that you were in
Yeah,
last time.
the other car's supposed to be easier because it was.
This is one of the hardest cars you could ever learn to drive
I
on.
feel like if you could drive this, you
Yeah.
could probably drive anything.
So now you could probably engage any clutch really easily.
But you see, like when I get talked through it, like it helps. Like if you're just sitting, like this is what my dad did. He's just sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Oh, my dad,
It's
when
like,
he taught
I
me.
don't know what I'm doing.
My
Help.
dad kind of told me initially what to do, and then I kept putting it into third.
Well, that's what he would do. He would just initially tell me what to do, and then expect me to do it. And
So
I'm like,
third and first on a lot of sports cars is really tight. It's really, really close. And I kept putting it into third He was like, son, what are you doing wrong? What are you doing? He was getting irritated with me. And then finally he was like, oh, you've been put in third. And then, you know, after that, I pretty much I gave up. And then a few years later, me and my mom got that Mustang, 3-valve Mustang GT, and then I learned on that. And, yeah. So hopefully this video helps some people out there. Drive cam Terminator Cobras. If anyone ever wants to learn how to drive a cam Terminator Cobra, or teach their girlfriend how to drive a cam Terminator Cobra. Like, actually driving this car on the street is a whole nother thing. Like, it still stresses me out. Like, I don't even like to drive this car in heavy traffic. It's too crazy to drive, like, in traffic all the time. Like, I can drive it for a couple of days and then I get burnt out and I want to drive something else. It's just, with the Whipple and the cam and everything, it's just, at this point, it's aggressive. So, yeah, it would be very stressful for someone that hasn't driven a manual to try to drive this on the street, probably like heart attack. So, you know, that'll come in time. But I think this will help people. You did great.
Thank you.
So we went over starting it, getting out of first, cruising, what gears to cruise in, and how to downshift, and then we learn how to get into first gear. She did great. Anyone that learns a car like this, or just a sports car like a Corvette, Cobra, Mustang, something like this in general is going to be a little bit, like, it's going to make you anxious. Your leg's going to shake. Most people are going to stall out a few times. If you don't stall out, cool. But if you do, it happens. It's nerve-wracking learning how to drive a manual. So if you're teaching someone, don't get mad at them. Be patient. If you're the one being taught, don't have a heart attack. If you're in a parking lot, I like to go to a church parking lot. Just, you know, if you stall out a couple times, you're learning. That's what it takes to learn. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a like, comment if you have any questions. If you would like to send this to someone to maybe help someone out, that would be great. Sharing helps me a lot in the algorithm. I'll see you guys next video. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel for more content like this and just car culture and Cobra content. I'll see you guys next video. Much love.